Hi girls and boys, it's story time again, and the book that I'm going to read to you today is another rhyming book, so you need to listen out, use its detective ears to listen out for the rhyming words. And in this book, there is something that begins with the letter I, our letter of the week, and it makes an I sound in this word, so it's not the I sound, it's the I sound. So you need to use those detective eyes and listen to when I'm reading to see if you can figure out what is the thing in this book that begins with the letter I. This is the book, and it's called The Snail and the Whale. And if you look closely, you can see there's an I in the word snail. The snail and the whale. So you know it's going to rhyme already, don't you? So let's see what happens with the snail and the whale. Okay, can you see that? Yes. This is the tail of a tiny snail and a great big grey-blue humpback whale. This is the rock as black as soot, and this is the snail with the itchy foot. The sea snail slithered over the rock and gazed at the sea and the ships in the dock. The sea is deep and the world is wide. How I long to sail, said the tiny snail. There she is. You see her on the rock there? Right there. You see her? In the harbour? It does look like a fun place to go and visit, doesn't it? That harbour and the ocean. So let's see what happens. These are the other snails in the flock, who all stuck tight to the smooth black rock, and said to the snail with the itchy foot, "Be quiet, don't giggle, don't wiggle, sit still, stay put." But the tiny sea snail sniffed and sighed, and then cried, "I got it! I got it! I'll hitch a ride!" This is the trail of the tiny snail, the slithery trail that looped and curled and said, "Ride wanted around the world." Now can you see? On the rock there, "Ride wanted around the world." I wonder who's going to see that message. Let's see. Let's see who's going to see that message. Wow. This is the whale who came one night, when the tide was high and the stars were bright, a humpback whale immensely long, who sang to the snail a wonderful song of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves. This is the tale of the humpback whale. He held it out for the starlit sea and said to the snail, "Come sail with me." Can you see? There's this tiny snail getting onto the whale's tail. Wow. Let's see what happens. This is the sea, so wild and free, that carried the whale and the snail on his tail to the towering icebergs of far-off lands. Yeah, lots of penguins there as well, aren't there? With fiery mountains and golden sands. Can you see the turtle and the parrot? The monkey. It looks like a tropical island, doesn't it? These are the waves that arched and crashed, that foamed and frolicked and sprayed and splashed the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. Still hanging on. These are the caves beneath the waves where colourful fish and feathery fins and sharks and hideous with hideous toothy grins swam past the whale and the snail on his tail. There they are. There's an octopus too, isn't there? Where else did they go? This is the sky, so vast and high, sometimes sunny and blue and warm, sometimes filled with a thunderstorm, with zigzag lightning, flashing and frightening, the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. That would be a little bit scary, wouldn't it? It would be a little bit scary. Where else did they go? Let's see. And she gazed at the sky, the sea, the land, the waves and the caves and the golden sand. She gazed and gazed, amazed by it all. And she said to the whale, "I feel so small." She is very small compared to all of the beautiful, beautiful things that she's seeing, isn't she? She's very, very tiny. Now, where did it go next? But then came the day the whale lost his way. Oh dear. These are the speedboats running a race, zigging and zooming all over the place, upsetting the whale with their ear-splitting roar, making him swim too close to the shore. Oh no, this is the tide slipping away. When the tide goes out, you see more beach, don't you? It means the water's moving back into the ocean, further away from the land. Oh no, what's going to happen to the whale? And this is the whale lying beached in a bay. "Quick, off the sand, back to the sea," cried the snail. "I can't move on land, I'm too big," moaned the whale. The snail felt helpless and terribly small. Then, "I've got it," she cried, and started to crawl. "I must not fail," said the tiny snail. I wonder what she's going to do. What is that tiny snail going to do? How is she going to save the beached whale? Let's see. This is the bell on the school in the bay, ringing the children in from their play. This is the teacher holding her chalk, telling her class, "Sit straight, don't talk." This is the board as black as soot. There they are, can you see? And this is the snail with the itchy foot. Can you see the snail there on the board? "A snail, a snail!" The teacher turns pale. "Look," say the children, "it's leaving a trail." This is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail saying, "Save the whale." Can you look up on the wall? Somebody's done a painting of a picture of a whale, haven't they? You can see it just there. Save the whale. She's a smart snail being able to write all of these things, isn't she? What happens next? These are the children running from school, fetching the firemen, digging a pool, squirting and spraying to keep the whale cool. Yes, they have to keep the whale cool because he's used to being in the cold ocean. And we know when we go to the beach, it's very warm on the beach, so that's not good for the whale. So they're helping him, aren't they? Okay, let's see. this is the tide coming into the bay. And these are the villagers shouting, hooray! Look, so they dug the sand away, made a pool so the ocean can come in. And look, hooray, they shout as the whale and the snail travel safely away. You can see them, and there's the snail on the tail again. Everybody waving goodbye. All helping out. That's great, isn't it? Back to the dock and the flock on the rock, who said, how time's flown, and haven't you grown? And the whale and the snail told their wonderful tale of shimmering ice and coral waves and shooting stars and enormous waves, and of how the snail, so small and frail, with her looping, curling, silvery trail, saved the life of the humpback whale. Then the humpback whale held out his tail, and on crawled snail after snail after snail. Can you see them there? Their stories of their adventures were so wonderful. Now everybody wants to go. And they sang to the sea as they set sail on the tail of the grey-blue humpback whale. Isn't that a great story, girls and boys? So one snail was brave enough to go at the beginning, and then everybody wanted to go. I wonder what adventures they'll have now. And did you see and hear the thing that began with the I? Did you see it? It was at the very beginning, one of the very first places that they went. Let's see. Do you remember that one? Look at the icebergs and the ice. Ice begins with I. Good listening and good detective eyes if you figured it out. I hope you enjoyed my tale of the snail and the whale, and I'm going to see you again soon. Bye, girls and boys.